What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. Today we have an interview with Steve, or you might know him as world-renowned Heretic, and he got top 16 at U.S. Nationals with his Blastoise Keldeo deck. Now, the whole point of the deck revolves around Archie's Ace in the Hole, which says you can only play this card when it's the last card in your hand. You put a water energy from your discard pile onto your bench, then draw 5 cards. And of course, you want to use Blastoise here. You want to put an Archie's Blastoise. That's why you don't play Squirtle. You don't play a Wartortle, so you can get around with Archie's that way. And Blastoise has the ability to lose. As often you like during your turn, you may attach a water energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. And of course, you want to attach this to Keldeo, which has a Secret Sword attack. It does 50 and 20 more damage for each water energy attached to this Pokemon. And you easily start swinging big damage turn 1 with Keldeo, which is pretty nice there. You play 2 eggs to combo with the Superior and the Ultra Ball, even the Computer Search. And overall, the deck is really fast, it's really consistent, and I ask a bunch of questions about the deck, but hopefully you enjoyed the interview, and thanks for watching. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. Today we have a national support, and what's your name?
Steve Guthrie.
Okay, and we know that you play the Keldeo deck for your nationals, but what were the matches that you had?
I had a handful of different matches. I played against like 3 Lando Bats, I think, 3 colorless Mega Rayquazas, a Groudon, let's see, a Kyogre, Seismitoad Manectric Garbodor, and then a Seismitoad Manectric Crobat. A lot of stuff when you combine like day 1 and day 2. And I think there was a Kling Clang in there somewhere too.
Okay. So, what was your hardest deck to play against?
Probably the Groudon, because the guy ran like 4 Wobbuffets and 3 to 4 Silent Labs, so it was really a pain. This is like Garbodor, at least it takes some time to get it set up, but Silent Lab and Wobbuffet, they just kind of come down out of nowhere, just boom.
Okay. So, what was your overall record?
On day 1, I went 6-1-2 with an ID in the last round, and in my overall after day 2 was 10-3-2. I actually lost on the bubble to get into top 8 and ended up top 16.
And what deck was that?
That was the Manectric Seismitoad Crobat. I drew what I like to call a game 3 hand appropriately in game 3.
You just had nothing?
Yeah, it was Kyurem, 2 Keldeos, 2 Blastoise, and 2 Water Energies, and a 3rd Water Energy was my top deck.
Okay.
So I knew pretty much as soon as I saw that, and she didn't play an end, that I was like, yep, I lost.
Yeah, true. Now, besides that loss, what were your other 2 losses to?
My only day 1 loss was to a Lando Bats, because he had 3 Haluchas down, and they all had Focus Sashes. So I brought the Kyurem up, and I Frost Speared 2 of them, so I'd be able to knock him out, and he plays 2 Super Scoop Ups and gets double heads. So I just basically facepalm at that point. Like,
True.
Okay. So he put a Lucario down, and he knocked out my Kyurem, so I KO'd his Lucario, but then I just couldn't kill anything else. Everything was like 2 shots for 1 prize, and yeah. And then my other loss was the Groudon deck, because I decked myself out both times. That was the only time I decked out the entire tournament, though.
Okay. And now your IDs, you said one was on purpose. What about the other ones?
I guess you'd call it a UD, or an unintentional draw.
Mm-hmm.
That was against Primal Kyogre, and that was actually my fault. If I would have scooped up game 2, that was against Michael 2, maybe like a minute or 2 before I did. Instead of going like all the way to the end of it, I really think I would have beaten him, because I needed exactly 1 more turn to retreat into my Kyurem and pay his retreat cost to get all 3 energies off him into the discard, so I can superior them back onto Keldeo and OHKO his Kyogre, which had a hard charm attached to it. So I could have got all 11 energies on Keldeo and done 270.
Okay.
Hard charm.
Alright. Now, we know that you play the Blastoise or the Archies. How often did you get it turn 1?
I've got about an 80% success rate, roughly.
Mm-hmm. Now, oh, you're good.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, with the Wobbuffets, when you play against that, does that make it a little bit more difficult, or no?
It really depends on the way you draw it. It definitely limits some of your plays. Like, you can't go for the Jirachi right away in the beginning of the game. which kind of stinks because Jirachi's a lot of times is like the way like you get the Ultra Ball, which will help you get like the excess cards out of your hand, excess water energies, other supporters and VS Seekers that you don't need, and like you'll go and get the Jirachi to get the Archie a lot of times.
Hmm.
And you can't do that when there's a Wobbuffet down, or if you go second and they play a Silent Lab. But you can still like if you have like double Ultra Ball, you can go one Ultra Ball, search the Blastoise, and then play a second one, discard the Blastoise. But I feel like still like without having like Compressor VS Seeker or just Archies in hand, it's definitely like it's a lot more situational to be able to get it on turn one when you're staring down an ability lock right off the bat.
That's very true. Now, we noticed that you played two Shaman and two Jirachi. Which one was your favorite?
I think Jirachi is more clutch to the deck still because the ability to pull Archies right out of the deck is just huge.
Hmm.
Shaman is really just kind of replacing the bicycles that I ran when I played it in States.
True.
Since Roaring Skies has been added to the format, I added 4 trainers males, and then I noticed that Seismitoad, like you get the Blastoise out, but then you have trouble drawing energies, and you like Sycamore into hands of 7 items and stuff. So you can Ultra Ball for the Shaman, kind of draw up more cards to either first turn try to get you the Blastoise more, like get more cards and a higher chance of getting like Ultra Ball, Battle Compressor, Computer Surge, Acrobike, Trainer's Mail, just all like the reach cards. Pretty much just kind of reach to the deck and try to get the stuff you need, and then just clean your hand out. And then I don't know. I felt like against Silent Lab and Wobbuffet and Garbodor too that like the other 2 bicycles were the reason I dropped them because the float stones I felt were necessary. Because when you get ability locked, then they just Lysander up your Blastoise, and if you don't have 4 energy to get it out of there, then it's just gonna die.
Sure. All right. So, if you had an opportunity to get the perfect 7-card hand, what would it be?
I'm sorry?
If you had the chance to get like 7 perfect cards, what would they be?
For an opening hand?
Yes.
Okay. I'm thinking about this. Like, my active Pokemon would probably be Plasma Kyurem. There's some matchups where I would want Keldeo, but mostly Kyurem. And then I would say, let's see, Battle Compressor is always good in the first hand. Computer Search, definitely. Let's see, Battle Compressor could get, I would actually say 2 Battle Compressors.
Okay.
And then the Kyurem, the Computer Search, maybe 1 Water Energy, I'm thinking, maybe. And then trying to think of like what else. I guess I would say like a Keldeo then, just to kind of have it on the bench. And then because you could like compressor out double eggs, so you could just play all your stuff like that for free.
Mm-hmm.
And then so 2 compressor. Sorry, I'm trying to rerun over this.
You're good.
Hiram Keldeo, 2 compressors, Computer Search, a Water Energy, and I would probably just say having the Archies in hand right away, so I wouldn't have to search for it. So I could just like compressor out like double Blastoise, double eggs, Lysander, and N, and then just have the 1 water that I could just attach to Kyurem or Keldeo, have both of those on the field, and then just play Archie.
Okay. Now, we noticed in your list that you play 1 Rough Seas, and I know a lot of people ask, why do you play just the 1 Rough Seas?
The biggest reason for that, it's a card that's beneficial to the deck, of course, since all of my attackers as well as my accelerator are all water types. But it's also a card that you can just freely drop from your hand. I mean, unless you're playing against one of those Manectric or Kyogre lists that run Rough Seas, you can just always drop it right out of your hand. And if I ran 2 and then I drew both of them, then I would have to find a way like an Ultra Ball or something to actually discard the second one. So it's really just for like speed and all that stuff. Like it's 1 card you can get out of your hand right away, so you can play Archies, or so you can draw more off a Shaman or something like that, and not have a second one just cluttering up your hand at any time.
Okay, all right, that makes a lot of sense. Now, why'd you decide to go with the Keldeo Blastoise deck?
Biggest reason for me, like I have my Worlds invite already, and I know that U.S. Nationals is always the biggest tournament of the year in terms of turnout, especially in the Masters division.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to just be able to play something that I enjoy. Like that's kind of back to the same reasoning as States. and it's a really fun deck to play. I was testing it against other like meta decks, and it didn't like if when it goes off on the first turn, it really doesn't seem to have any horrible matchups, so to speak. Like even the item lock, Garbodor can definitely present problems. That's why I included the float stones. Seismitoad slows it down, but in that case, you actually play the battle compressors a little bit differently once you get your Blastoise out and stuff like that against Toad decks. The only thing that's really outright scary is the turn one Trevenant deck, where if you go second and they wally their Trevenant on the first turn, then that basically just stonewalls the entire deck.
Yeah, true.
And I mean, you would have to have a hand of like maybe one Water Energy and like four Keldeos and a Kyurem. And even though, like, how are you going to get that Blastoise in the discard pile without item cards? You know, like, maybe you'd have to, like, Sycamore and then draw the perfect hand second turn. Like, I don't know. I pretty much accept that if they get that set up, that deck's going to beat me.
Okay. Now, you did only play the one Kyurem. Did you ever want a second one?
I didn't actually play against any Night March decks, which is really where I would have probably wanted another one, like against, like, Night March or Flareon or any of those massive one-prize decks.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely helpful against Hawlucha and against Groudon if they're doing the like the Groudon player I played ran Robo Subs, and just like against anything that runs Focus Sash because you can just kind of do Frost Spear and just snipe them out, or anything that can KO. Like I know in the last round against Christy Britton, I was playing the Kyurem to do Frost Spear and kind of spread a little bit of damage because I didn't play the Rough Seas down yet, and then I would Blizzard Burn to finish off Seismitoad after two Frost Spears, but then she just dropped the Silent Lab, and there was just nothing I could do.
Okay. Now, after this tournament, would you make any changes to your list, or you think it's pretty solid?
I'm definitely thinking about, like, I know a lot of people started talking about the Bunnelby for the Wailord matchup. Honestly, this deck is already capable of OHKOing the Wailord, but you need every single energy in the entire deck on one Keldeo to do it, since they probably have a hard charm, and I don't have a way to stop them from getting one.
Yeah.
So while that's definitely possible, I think the Bunnelby is good for like as a one-of for that, and also just because Rototiller I actually feel could be really useful in this deck, because when you set up, sometimes you have to ditch. Like I had one game where I actually had to ditch 3 superior energy retrievals early on to set up, and that was really painful. And of course I lost. I think that was the land bats round 3 that I actually lost to. And I feel like just being able to get like superior energy retrievals and VS Seekers and stuff like that back in the deck. You know, maybe get the Kyurem back so I don't have to Archie for it if I want to use it a second time.
Yeah.
Anything like that. You know, like supporters I'll just leave in the discard pile unless I'm up against Toad. Obviously if I'm against Toad, I'm going to try to battle compress, you know, like my reach item cards like Trainer's Mail and Acrobike out right away because they're going to be dead, you know. So I really don't want to see those. You can also put stuff like Shaman back, Jirachi, I guess, although you're really not going to have supporters in the deck at that point, so
yeah,
I don't really see why I would do that. Float Stones maybe against like Ability Lock. Just a lot of stuff like that.
Okay. Now, you talked about how you played this for Nationals just for fun, but would you consider it for Worlds at all?
I actually am definitely considering it for Worlds, although I feel like I'd want to be going and getting a set of those secret rare trainer mails for Worlds, and that might be a royal pain, but I got like 6 people who are all like, yeah, we'll keep an eye out and we'll just try to assemble a playset between all of us, because if I did that, I just feel like since it's a reprint and it would be legal, I think that would be really cool. Like, otherwise, I definitely think it's a strong contender. I was very fortunate that I didn't hit a lot of Seismitoad decks during the tournament. Some decks were teching Seismitoad. I hit the 2 on day 2. I won against one of them, and that was actually because that was round 3 of day 2. We had agreed that we both knew that a draw would likely knock us both out of having a chance to make top 8. So we agreed that if it ended in a tie, that whoever had less prizes left, assuming it was game 3 or I guess game 1, you know, if it was in a tie situation, that whoever had less prizes left would be considered the winner, and that ended up being me. So I did get that one by virtue of just being ahead on prizes and my opponent being a really good sport about it. And then the other Toad deck I played was Christie in the last round on day 2, and that game 3 hand just killed me, and I also misplayed in the first game. So I was able to take like Toad decks and all that to game 3. So I'm not really too concerned about that, even if they're just like straightforward Toad. I just have to be able to play a little more carefully. Like it definitely alters the way you play the engine instead of just going almost as reckless as you can.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So last year at Nationals, we saw that Pyro had a really big showing, and everybody was considering for Worlds, but it didn't show up. And the year before that, we saw Guthrie Selgor actually win Nationals and not do so well at Worlds. Do you think the same thing will happen with Waylord?
I definitely think people are going to try to counter it. I mean, whether that's by means of something like Dragon Rayquaza, which can just one shot it. I mean, I noticed that Enrique didn't play Crushing Hammers, so I think that's a pretty big it's a pretty big thing right there to know that you can just energize something on the bench, and as long as it's on the bench, they can't really touch your basic energies at least.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people are going to try to find a way to beat it, but I do think it's going to be challenging to do it without kind of using time. Like, obviously, what Jason did, like, I don't care what anyone says, I think what he did was brilliant.
Oh yeah,
Just kind of knowing the rules. Um, I think that people will try to play it, but I don't know if I don't expect it to make it into the finals again like it did at Nationals. Like I think people are gonna, tech for it the way they did against like Kling Klang and Gothitelle and then last year with Pyro. Like Pyro virtually no showed last year from what I heard, and Virizion Genesis just went all the way to the top because of that.
Okay. Now, do you want to give any shout outs to anybody?
My entire playtesting crew, all the people that I roomed with, Charles Carter, Thomas Lynn, on my channel is Just Call Me Charles, and Disigma, also Jacob Brumfield and Jay Murchison. Those 4 guys that I just mentioned, we all roomed together. We had a really good time. It's a really fun trip. You for being awesome and recording a video with me. Yeah, we did 2 matches actually. I got all that stuff edited. Now I'm just working on uploading it. Ashley Fuentes for an awesome match. Everybody I played in the Swiss rounds really. I'll go ahead and say all 16 of my opponents, even though I ID'd in round 9 of day 1. I thought it was a great tournament. The Buckeye League people, Kevin Baxter, Andrew Mahoney, just the local, the really good. I shouldn't say local, but the really good Ohio players that have been helping out. They've offered me advice on multiple occasions, and I guess just kind of everyone else in the area that's helped me, and and of course all of my fans across World Renowned Heretic for believing in me and encouraging me to go forward. And I guess the biggest shout out of all would be to my wife Mari and my son Axel, because they're the ones that make my world go round, and so I just that's where I draw my inspiration from, and I think that it's just really special.
That's very cool. Yeah. And just in case if you don't know his YouTube channel for some reason, I'll link it down below. You can go look at his videos. They're amazing. And like I said, we recorded 4 or 5 games, something like that. So go check those out if you want to see them.
Yeah. It was 2 matches. We did the current format, and then we did the ancient origins on the Mega Tyranitar and the Mega Skeptile.
Yeah. So
definitely look out for those.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this, and I can't wait to see you at Worlds once again.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to see you there either. Maybe we'll have to record something else. I don't know.
Exactly. All right, man. Well, take care.
All right. You too, man.